The galaxy's most lucrative trade lane was shaped like a ring, and every merchant navigator knew why. At its heart yawned a sector that maps labeled only as human space, a cluster of suns richer than most empires but utterly avoided. Freighters curved wide, adding weeks to their journeys rather than shave a single light-year from the arc. No one dared to cut through. Jill Raven studied the holographic chart projected above her captain's table and felt the old unease settle behind her eyes. A perfect, empty void stretched across the display, a whole not of nature's making but of choice. The ring of crimson waypoints traced the safe corridor around it like a noose. Cargo Guild sent another petition, said First Officer Heron, a tall seraph with glassy cobalt skin that reflected the console lights. His voice held a brittle humor. They want us to lobby for a direct route through the core. They think the profits outweigh legends. Legends? Jilra almost laughed. Her grandmother had been a long-haul pilot who whispered stories of lost scout fleets, signals that ended mid-word distress calls that dissolved into static merchant ships that emerged from the void burned from within as if star flares had licked their hulls. Legends, the council called them, until the wreckage of the Rendlin was found adrift with every crew member petrified like carved obsidian. The council won't vote for a crossing, Jilra said finally, not until someone proves what's in there. Heron folded his thin arms, and the proof never returns. Outside the viewport, space glimmered with the silver lattice of the spiral exchange, thousands of traffic beacons marking trade lanes like fireflies, every one of them bent wide around the central darkness. It was a wound in the night, a scar across the galaxy's living map. Rumors and reckonings. Across the core systems, the why of human space was a perennial obsession. Academics published paper after paper claiming humanity had died out centuries ago. Others swore the species had ascended beyond material form, becoming energy or data. Conspiracy channels whispered of superweapons capable of folding stars or of biological horrors that consumed anything not born of Earth. Jilra never trusted any of it. She trusted evidence, and evidence was precisely what no one possessed. 2 days later, evidence came knocking. It arrived as a priority burst from the Galactic Council itself, carrying a call to session on Helios Prime. Jilra was not a counselor, but as captain of the Venture's Way, one of the fastest and best-equipped deep-range cruisers, she was summoned to provide logistical consultation. Her gut tightened. The council did not convene merchants unless commerce was at stake or danger too large for its own fleets. The chamber of Helios Prime was a cathedral of light and motion. Delegates of 100 species filled the amphitheater, voices rising like surf. Above them hung a single projection, a region-wide scan of human space, normally a black field of nothing. Now it pulsed with new data, faint but unmistakable structures, colossal frameworks orbiting a white dwarf star near the sector's heart. Counselor Drake of the Ventari clicked his mandibles for silence. For centuries we believed human space unoccupied, he declared. Last cycle an automated probe detected megastructures, rings, perhaps habitats spanning tens of millions of kilometers. Their energy signature exceeds anything we can replicate. The question is clear: do we investigate or do we continue to hide? A murmur rippled through the assembly. A thin, pale creature of the Istari rose, translucent skin shimmering. Investigate, we sent 50 probes, none returned, we sent crews, they vanished, and you propose we march in. Drake's multifaceted eyes glittered. We are bound by curiosity, trade suffers for this hole in our roots. We must know whether humanity still lives or what else resides there. Jilra felt the weight of every gaze shift toward the hologram of the Venture's Way posted beside her name. Her heart drummed. She realized with cold clarity that the council already knew which ship might lead the expedition. Into the dark. 3 weeks later, Jilra walked the echoing docks of Orbital 8, watching as supply drones loaded sensor pods and reinforced hull plates onto the Venture's Way. The mission was official, preliminary reconnaissance of Sector H0, colloquially human space. The council had approved a stealth observational entry, which was a politician's phrase for a trespass. Her crew was a mosaic of volunteers and risk-takers. Heron, of course, ever loyal, Levek, a Krell engineer with 6 arms and a laugh like a rusted hatch, and Isha Vorn, a historian obsessed with old Earth transmissions, who carried a battered data slate of forgotten human languages. Before departure, Isha cornered Jilra in the quiet of the bridge. "Do you believe they're gone?" the historian asked. "I believe no one has come back to tell us otherwise." Isha's dark eyes gleamed with something between dread and excitement. What if they're watching? What if the legends are warnings, not ghosts? Jilra tightened the straps on her flight harness. Then let's hope they're feeling hospitable. The Venture's Way detached from dock with a shiver of engines and slid into the hyperlanes, stars streaking into luminous rivers. As Helios Prime dwindled to a spark, Jilra felt the strange gravity of their destination drawing them inward. The edge of the scar. Crossing the final parsecs toward human space was like approaching a storm front that the universe itself refused to acknowledge. Traffic beacons grew sparse. Automated guidance satellites so common along normal routes ceased entirely. The nav computer displayed a widening gray void ahead, no coordinates, no comms, just uncharted black. Heron's normally steady voice quivered as he read the scans. Sensors show nothing, not even background radiation beyond the threshold. It's like the sector eats starlight. Levick ran a triple check, no malfunction, the void is perfect. Jilra stared into the holographic projection, an emptiness so absolute it seemed to pull heat from the room. Her ship hummed softly, the only heartbeat in a universe holding its breath. Mark the boundary, she ordered. All stations record continuous data. Once we cross, there's no guarantee we'll have another chance. A thin line of blue light shimmered across the nav map, the last recognized coordinate of galactic civilization. Beyond it, silence. As the Venture's way drifted forward, a sensation pressed against Jilra's mind, subtle but undeniable. Not fear exactly, but awareness, as if something vast and unseen had turned its attention toward their small, intruding vessel. Heron's voice cracked through the hush. Captain, external sensors picking up a signal, very faint, old modulation. Isha, can you decode? The historian bent over the console, fingers dancing. Static hissed, then a pattern emerged, slow, deliberate, like a heartbeat. Isha's eyes widened. It's an Earth origin sequence, she whispered. A greeting, but it's not automated, it's recent. The crew exchanged glances, a silent tremor passing through them. Jilra drew a deep breath. Play it. The bridge filled with a soft, measured voice speaking in an archaic Earth tongue, translated on the overhead. Traveler, you have crossed the line, turn back or be changed. The words faded into static, the comm boards flared, then died. For a long moment, no one spoke. Outside, the stars within human space remained black, as if a curtain had fallen across the cosmos. Shadows of choice. They had planned for sensor ghosts, for mechanical failure, even for attack, but not for a voice alive and deliberate after centuries of silence. Heron broke the stillness. Captain, orders. Jilra stared at the dark ahead, her pulse hammered with equal parts terror and exhilaration. The Council had demanded evidence. Here it was. Humanity lived, or something in its name did. Hold position, she said, her voice steady despite the storm in her chest. Transmit standard galactic greeting, no sudden moves. Levick's hands hesitated over the controls. If they can cloak entire stars, Captain, they don't need sudden moves. Do it, she repeated. The ship broadcasted signal into the void, a simple beacon of light and data. It vanished like a pebble cast into a bottomless ocean. Minutes passed, then an hour, nothing. Finally, Jilra allowed herself a breath. Perhaps the warning was the end of it. Perhaps they could retreat, alive and wiser, and tell the Council the truth. But as she turned to give the order to withdraw, the main view screen bloomed with sudden, impossible light. Stars appeared where none had been, thousands of them igniting at once, arranging themselves into geometric patterns too precise for nature. Lines of radiance formed titanic lattices across the dark, as if constellations themselves had awakened. Every sensor on the Venture's way shrieked with overload. Isha gasped. They were never absent, she breathed. They were hiding in plain sight. The crew stood transfixed as the false stars pulsed in unison, a rhythm like a colossal heartbeat. And Jilra realized that the legends her grandmother told were not cautionary fables but survival instructions. Humanity had not been lost to time. It had simply learned how to disappear until it wished to be seen. The false constellations still burned across the void, each point of light unnervingly deliberate. On the Venture's Way's bridge, no one breathed. Instruments pulsed red with warnings, gravimetric anomalies, radiation spikes, sensor ghosts. Yet the ship floated untouched, a speck before a vast, living geometry. Captain Jilra then forced her voice steady. Status. Power fluctuations across all decks, Heron reported, his cobalt skin shimmering with stress. But engines are stable. Whatever that display is, it's not harming us yet. Levick, 6 arms darting over the engineering console, hissed. This isn't a star field. I'm reading energy constructs, each one the mass of a small moon. Someone built these. Someone, Jilra echoed, or something. Isha Vorn, the historian, stepped closer to the viewscreen, transfixed. This pattern, it's reminiscent of old Terran constellations, Orion, Lyra, but they're rearranged like a signature. As if in answer, the lights shifted, forming new shapes, curves that danced like a heartbeat. Then the voice returned, soft but resonant, translated automatically into a dozen languages at once. Traveler, you have ignored the warning. Proceed and you accept the consequence. The bridge lights dimmed as the transmission ended. Silence pressed down like a physical weight. A council divided. Far across the galaxy, the Galactic Council chamber on Helios Prime erupted into chaos as the transmission reached them. Delegates shouted over one another, their own live feeds showing the shimmering lattice behind Jilra's ship. Counselor Drake slammed a clawed fist on the podium. They speak, humanity survives, we cannot turn back now. Survives, or something worse, countered the Istari delegate, translucent skin flashing a warning crimson. Recall the ship before it provokes annihilation. But the delay of lightspeed communication meant that whatever decision the Council reached would be hours behind the reality unfolding at the edge of human space. For now, Jilra and her crew were on their own. The unseen current. The Venture's way edged forward almost of its own accord. Jilra felt it first as a subtle tug, like the gentle pull of a tide. Thrusters reported no burn, yet the ship drifted deeper into the silent sector. Engines to reverse, she ordered. Heron's fingers flew across the controls. Full counterthrust engaged and were still moving forward. Levek swore in Krellian, a sound like grinding metal, something dragging us in. Outside, the star lattice pulsed again, brighter. Space itself seemed to ripple. Jilra's stomach tightened. This was no natural gravity well, it was intent. Shields to maximum, she said. Record every reading. If we don't make it back, someone will need to know. Whispers in the dark. Hours blurred into a strange twilight. Navigation sensors spun uselessly, showing them simultaneously moving and standing still. Crew members reported faint voices over the comm, soft murmurs in what Isha identified as archaic Earth dialects. One ensign claimed to hear a lullaby her grandmother once sang, though she had never told anyone the tune. Another swore a figure stood at the edge of his cabin, shaped like a human silhouette of pure starlight. Fatigue thickened the air. Jilra forced herself to stay alert. Fear is a contagion, she told herself. It feeds on imagination. But when she closed her eyes, she too heard a distant echo, her grandmother's voice speaking an old spacer's prayer. She snapped her eyes open and gripped the armrest until the vision faded. Breach. A sudden tremor rattled the hull, alarms howled. The forward viewport darkened as an immense structure loomed into view, an obsidian arc the size of a continent, half shrouded in swirling mist. Levek's readings spiked. It's a construct, no, a gate, mass readings off the charts, material unknown. As they approached, faint blue symbols flared across the gate's surface, forming words in hundreds of galactic scripts, only one phrase repeated in each language. Turn back. Jilra stared at the monumental warning. Behind her, crew members shifted anxiously, yet something deeper than curiosity compelled her onward. Maintain course, she said, slow and steady. Captain Heron protested, this is. I know what it is, we came for truth, this is it. The Venture's way slid beneath the gate's immense arch. The moment they crossed, the universe changed. The human veil. Light vanished, sensors blanked. For an instant, the crew floated in absolute nothingness. No stars, no time, not even the sense of their own bodies. Then, like a curtain lifting, reality reassembled. They found themselves inside a colossal sphere of faint luminescence, a hollow cosmos hidden within the void. Around them drifted titanic structures, rings, lattices, cities suspended in vacuum, glowing with quiet power. Isha whispered, awestruck, Dyson habitats billions of kilometers across. This is a civilization beyond anything we imagined. Jilra felt a shiver of reverence and fear. Humanity had not merely survived, it had ascended to a scale that mocked the Council's proud empires. A pulse of light coalesced ahead, shaping itself into a towering figure of radiant particles. It resembled a human, though translucent and shifting like living starlight. The envoy. The figure spoke, its voice resonating directly in their minds, bypassing language. You enter the sovereignty of humanity, we warned you, state your purpose or depart forever. Jilra stepped forward, her throat dry. We seek knowledge, the galaxy believed you gone. We chose silence, the galaxy was not ready, the envoy's eyes or the suggestion of eyes gleamed, and you are not invited. Heron bristled, then why show yourselves now? The envoy tilted its head, a gesture eerily human. Because you insisted on trespass, we protect what is ours. Do you understand the cost of defiance? Jilra swallowed the instinct to argue. We mean no harm but our counsel. Your counsel's curiosity is not our burden, the envoy interrupted, a sharp edge of cold in its tone. Leave or be unmade. The ship vibrated as if punctuating the threat. Every panel flickered. Energy readings skyrocketed beyond the gauges. A hard decision. Jilra turned to her crew. Their faces reflected the ghostly glow of the radiant figure, fear, wonder, a touch of defiance. Heron's voice was taut. Captain, we can't win against this. We should retreat while we still can. Isha shook her head slowly. This is history. If we turn back with nothing but a threat, the Council will send another fleet, larger, less careful. Levek's many hands hovered over the engineering board. Captain, whatever power they hold, it's infinite. We don't get a second chance if they decide we're a threat. Jilra felt the weight of command pressing like a physical force. They had come for truth, but truth demanded survival to be told. She met the envoy's shimmering gaze. If we leave, will you permit our safe passage and allow us to share what we've witnessed? The figure seemed to consider, stars within its form swirling. You may speak of our existence, but speak also of our warning. No species may cross this border again. Tell them the price of intrusion is extinction. The last word reverberated like a hammer blow. The sudden lattice of false stars still shimmered across the void when Captain Jilra then found her voice. Stabilize sensors, she ordered, though she doubted any reading could make sense of what they faced. The crew of the Venture's Way obeyed in strained silence. Console lights flickered with warnings, radiation surges, gravitational anomalies, electromagnetic storms, all peaking and vanishing in the same instant like the universe itself was breathing. Heron, his cobalt skin pale under the bridge glow, whispered, "It's not a formation, it's a message." Jilra stared at the geometric constellations glowing outside, perfect hexagons, spirals of precise ratios, each figure pulsed in time with the next, creating a rhythm too deliberate for natural occurrence. A message, she repeated softly, or a demonstration. The stars shifted again, folding inward as though the void were an origami sheet. The ship's inertial dampeners groaned. Levesque clutched a railing with 2 of his 6 arms while recalibrating sensors with the rest. Captain, spacetime curvature is fluctuating beyond any known metric. It's as if, he hesitated, mandibles clicking nervously, as if they're rewriting the local constants. Jilra's heart thudded. No civilization should command the physics of reality like clay, yet here it was, happening before her eyes. A voice in the silence. The patterns coalesced into a single point of blinding white. Then came the voice. Not a broadcast, not sound through the comm. It resonated directly in their minds, soft, precise, in each crew member's native language. Explorers of the Council races, you have crossed the threshold unbidden. Identify yourselves. Isha Vorn, the historian, gasped. Direct neural transmission through shields, impossible. Jilra swallowed, forcing calm into her voice. This is Captain Jilra Ven of the Venture's Way, a diplomatic survey vessel of the Galactic Council. We come in peace and seek only understanding. The voice returned, smooth as still water. Understanding is earned, not taken. Why trespass where you were warned to stay away? Heron murmured, it knows our intent, knows everything. We meant no harm, Jilra said, willing her thoughts to remain steady, though she suspected it could hear every tremor of fear. The Council believed humanity lost. We wished only to confirm. A pause, heavy as the dark between stars. Humanity is not lost, the voice said. We are changed. We warned the galaxy once. The warning stands. Revelation. As the words settled in their minds, the blinding point expanded into a panoramic vision. It wasn't a mere hologram. It was as if reality itself peeled open. They saw cities built on the skins of suns, fleets moving through folded space, colossal minds interlaced in a web of light. Humanity, if these entities could still be called human, had evolved beyond flesh and metal. They wielded the fabric of spacetime like artisans shaping glass. Jilra sensed rather than heard the next thought. We withdrew to spare the galaxy from our awakening. Conflict would have doomed all, but you have come, seeking what you cannot yet hold. The vision shifted again. Images of ancient wars flickered, chaos of species vying for dominance, the long-lost Terran fleets defending against armadas centuries ago. Jilra recognized fragments from half-mythical history lessons, the final exodus when humans vanished after their frontier skirmishes, leaving only silence. Isha whispered, awed, they didn't disappear, they transcended, they became this. Testing the trespassers. The lattice of stars flared crimson, gravity buckled, the Venture's Way jolted as if caught in a giant's fist. Stabilizers offline, Levesque barked, compensators failing. Hold course, Jilra ordered, though her knuckles whitened around the armrest. We show no aggression. The voice returned, colder now. Peace is proven, not claimed. Your minds must be known. Before anyone could react, a wave of luminescent energy swept through the ship. Panels went dark. Every crew member stiffened as someone entered their thoughts. Memories flickered unbidden. Jilra's childhood beneath Helios's twin moons, Heron's first flight through the Sereth crystal storms, Isha's years decoding forgotten Earth transmissions. None were private, all were laid bare. It wasn't invasion for harm. It felt like assessment, as if a grand intellect weighed their intentions on scales far beyond comprehension. Then, as suddenly as it began, the pressure eased. Lights flickered back, the crew gasped in unison. The voice spoke again, gentler now. Your curiosity is dangerous but not malicious. You may return with warning, humanity remains. We desire no empire, only solitude. Those who trespass again will not be met with patience. The human fleet. The stars around them dimmed, then flared once more, this time revealing shapes, vessels of impossible design sliding from folds in space like phantoms. Each ship was a study in paradox, sharp angles that seemed fluid, hulls shimmering as if composed of living dark matter. Heron's eyes widened. They've been here the whole time, invisible until they wanted us to see. No weapons were visible, yet the sheer presence of those ships radiated power beyond any known armament. The void vibrated with silent warning. One vessel glided forward, immense enough to eclipse moons. From it pulsed a final transmission, a simple string of data embedding directly into their navigation logs. A chart of the galaxy's trade routes, updated to include a bold scar marking the entire sector as prohibited territory. They don't just want us to leave, Isha said quietly. They want the whole galaxy to remember. The long retreat. Jilra steadied herself. Acknowledged, she said aloud, though whether the beings needed speech was uncertain. We will carry your message. The human fleet didn't respond with words. Instead, the stars rippled, and one by one the ships dissolved back into the void, leaving only the faint echo of their impossible presence. The Venture's Way's drives reignited of their own accord, systems suddenly restored to optimal efficiency as if gifted back by an unseen hand. A corridor of calm space opened ahead, an unmistakable invitation or perhaps a mandate to depart. Course plotted for Council space, Heron reported, voice hushed. They cleared a path for us. Jilra gave a single nod, take it slow and steady. As the ship slipped from the shadowed sector, the false stars behind them dimmed and winked out, until only ordinary constellations remained. But Jilra knew the ordinary was an illusion. Behind that darkness, the transcendent humans watched still. Echoes of fear and wonder. The journey back felt both endless and too brief. No one spoke much. Each crew member wrestled with what they'd witnessed, power beyond physics, minds beyond mortality. Isha finally broke the silence. Do you think they resent us for coming? Jilra considered. If they did, we wouldn't be alive. They could rule everything, Heron said softly. Why don't they? Because they don't need to, Jilra answered. She thought of the vision of humans as woven light, of cities built on suns. They already have everything that matters to them. Levek exhaled a low whistle. And now we know why no ship ever returned. They warned us, most didn't listen. Jilra gazed at the receding void on the viewscreen. Now the galaxy will. The Council confronted. When the Venture's Way emerged from hyperlane into Helios prime orbit, the entire Council fleet awaited, hundreds of vessels glittering like a metallic reef. A flood of encrypted hails cascaded through the comm system. Inside the Council chamber, delegates jostled for answers. The air buzzed with tension as Jilra and her crew relayed their experience. Holograms of the geometric star patterns, the telepathic warning, the fleet of living dark ships, all projected in shimmering light. Counselor Drake's mandibles clicked in disbelief. They spoke directly into your minds. Yes, Jilra said, and they were beyond anything we can classify. A chorus of murmurs filled the hall. Another delegate, a tall feathered mirror, asked, do they pose a threat of invasion? Jilra's answer was steady, only if we threaten them first. Their message was simple, stay out. The chamber fell silent. Even the most belligerent voices could not ignore the magnitude of what she described. Isha stepped forward, holding the navigation data the humans had provided. They gave us this, a map marking their boundaries. This is not a challenge, it's a warning and a gift of mercy. Drake studied the chart, multifaceted eyes reflecting the bold scar of human space. If they truly possess the power you claim, we cannot contest them. No, Jilra agreed, and we shouldn't try. A final glimpse. That night aboard the Venture's Way, Jilra stood alone at the observation deck. Beyond the viewport, the familiar stars of Helios Prime glittered harmlessly, yet her thoughts returned to the hidden sector, the silent frontier where humans had become something more than mortal. She imagined them watching even now, guardians of an invisible empire they neither flaunted nor expanded. Their restraint was as awe-inspiring as their might. A faint shimmer crossed the edge of the viewport, just a flicker, gone as soon as she focused. But in that instant, Jilra felt a gentle presence brush her mind like a quiet farewell. Humanity had awakened long ago, she realized, but not to dominate. They had chosen solitude, a sovereignty of the infinite. And now the galaxy, through her crew's testimony, would finally understand the terror and the profound respect of that choice. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so silent. After Captain Jilra Ven's testimony, no delegate spoke for several long minutes. Normally, the hall buzzed with side debates and translation chimes. Now the only sounds were the faint whir of ventilation and the low crackle of hollow projectors replaying the crew's recorded visions. Impossible star lattices, ships woven from living dark matter, and the single indelible phrase. Humanity remains, do not enter again. Counselor Drake finally broke the stillness, his mandibles clacking once before he spoke. There can be no vote on war. To attempt confrontation would be suicide. A ripple of uneasy agreement swept the amphitheater. Delegates who just days ago had demanded that human space be open for commerce now studied the floor. They could unmake the laws of physics, murmured a mere diplomat whose feathers shivered with unease. How do you fight those who can rewrite gravity? Jilra stood at the center dais, shoulders square. They don't seek conquest, she said firmly. They asked only for solitude. Ignore the warning and the galaxy invites its own extinction. Her words carried the weight of a witness who had looked the unknown directly in the eye and survived. The Council's decision. 3 days of emergency session followed. Security experts argued for surveillance, merchants begged for limited trade corridors, but every technical analysis of the venture's way logs confirmed the same truth. The humans commanded powers no civilization could challenge. On the final day, the Council voted unanimously to designate Sector H0 all of human space as prohibited expanse. Any vessel entering without explicit authorization would be treated as a danger to galactic stability. A single sentence was entered into the official charter. No species shall cross the human frontier. Violation is considered an act of self-destruction. The proclamation swept through the interstellar networks within hours. Trade guilds redrew their maps. Freight corporations reprogrammed navigation beacons to bend wider around the void than ever before. Even pirates, notoriously defiant of law, began whispering the same new proverb in every shadowport. Respect the silent star. Ripples across the stars. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy changed. On Ventari Prime, old veterans of the expansion wars told their grandchildren stories of the invisible humans, turning bedtime tales into hushed warnings. On the academic moon of Talos, scholars abandoned centuries-long debates about the Terran extinction and instead published frantic treatises on post-biological ascension, racing to interpret the Council's data dump of the human encounter. Even the ever-restless Krell raiders ceased their forays near the forbidden border. Merchant traffic increased along the ring routes that skirted the sector, paradoxically boosting profits even as distances grew. What had once been mere superstition became hard policy backed by fear and fact. Quiet heroes. For Captain Jilra and the crew of the Venture's Way, the aftermath brought a strange mix of fame and isolation. They were celebrated as explorers who returned where none had before, yet they carried a burden few understood. Reporters hounded them for details. What did they look like? Did you feel threatened? Can humanity be reasoned with? Jilra always answered carefully. They are beyond appearance, she would say. They chose not to harm us, that is all that matters. Heron withdrew from public life, unsettled by the lingering sense that the humans could still reach into his mind. Levesque returned to engineering but refused any job that took him near the frontier. Isha Vorn, however, poured her awe into scholarship, curating a massive archive of ancient Earth transmissions to help others glimpse the culture that had grown into near divinity. Late at night, Jilra often found herself awake in the ship's observation deck, staring toward that patch of sky. Sometimes she imagined she felt a subtle pulse like the echo of that telepathic voice, "We warned you once." It was not a threat, it was a reminder. The temptation of power. Not everyone was content to let the mystery lie. Months after the Council decree, intelligence reports whispered of rogue research collectives attempting to replicate the gravitational anomalies recorded by the Venture's Way. A black-budget project on the industrial world of Pharaon tried to reverse-engineer fold-drive weapons from the encounter data. Their test facility vanished in a single, silent implosion. No explosion, no debris, just an empty crater where kilometers of machinery had stood. Officially, the disaster was blamed on an experimental reactor meltdown. Unofficially, a single line of Earth origin code was found pulsing through the remaining computers. Do not. No one ever claimed responsibility. The rumor spread faster than any encryption could contain it. Whatever force watched the border clearly watched far beyond it. A new understanding. Years passed, the fear remained, but something deeper grew alongside it: respect. Species once obsessed with expansion began to reconsider their definitions of success. If humanity, once mortal, war-scarred and fragile, had chosen transcendence over conquest, perhaps power was not the only path to greatness. Philosophers called it the human lesson. True strength was the ability to refrain. The Council even created a day of reflection across its member worlds. Every cycle, ships dimmed their lights for a single hour while citizens contemplated the vast silent sector and the choice humanity had made to remain apart. Return to the frontier. 5 years to the day after the encounter, the Venture's Way was ordered to patrol the outer ring of the human frontier. The mission was symbolic, a show of vigilance and perhaps an unspoken request for acknowledgement. Jilra accepted, though part of her feared disturbing the fragile peace. The ship cruised the invisible boundary where ordinary starlight met the velvet black of forbidden space. Navigation markers blinked a steady cautionary red. Beyond them, nothing, yet the crew felt the weight of invisible eyes. As the patrol neared completion, a subtle shimmer rippled across the void. No alarms triggered, no sensors spiked, yet every soul aboard sensed it, a presence. Then a single point of silver light appeared, bright as a miniature dawn. It pulsed once, twice, an unmistakable greeting. No words entered their minds, no further message followed. Just that gentle flash, like a nod across an immeasurable gulf. Jilra smiled faintly. Acknowledged, she whispered, knowing the watchers would hear. The light faded and the stars returned to their natural quiet. Epilogue: The galaxy remembers. Generations later, children born on worlds scattered across the spiral arms would learn the story of the silent frontier. They would memorize the chart of trade routes bending around human space like a river around a sacred island. They would repeat the proverb in a dozen languages. Where humanity waits, eternity trembles. Some would wonder if the humans might one day emerge again, not as conquerors but as teachers or allies. Others believed they already walked unseen among the stars, guardians who intervened only when cosmic balance teetered. But all agreed on one truth: none dared cross human space. Because the galaxy finally understood that the greatest terror was not rage or destruction. It was the calm, unshakable certainty of a civilization that no longer needed to prove its power. The end.